The death lineup was on a small hiatus, and last week it was because Rod and I did the 49ers season preview episode of We Want Winners, so we're back on the death lineup here. And did you know that the NBA season begins in 1 month and 10 days?
And I think preseason starts. I saw the Lakers post something. It's like LeBron days until preseason starts for the Lakers. I think it was like him wearing a 23 jersey.
So the preseason will basically be
And
in I guess,
early
first week of
October,
October or
yeah,
something? Yeah.
yeah,
So that means that we'll have some real basketball to talk about because there hasn't been a lot of stuff to talk about. There are a few things because of how poorly Team USA did in the FIBA World Championships, finishing in 4th place, not only losing to Germany, but then losing to Canada in the 3rd place game. I don't know, man. Steve Kerr, I don't think he did a good job. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
think they lost. Would they lose to Lithuania, the Valanciunas team,
They did.
before the Germany one, and then back to back Germany Canada, no medal.
So no medal. It doesn't really mean a ton as far as the Olympics are concerned. Obviously, Team USA was not going to be in jeopardy of making the big tournament, but it did make all of us think. And I think the last episode that we did, which was a few weeks ago, we kind of talked about this idea of LeBron and Steph and KD playing together for one Olympic run. And I think that is coming to fruition. I imagine it would have happened even if Team USA did well in the FIBA Cup,
Yeah,
but the now there's just more awareness around, oh, Team USA, we need to be the back to the dream team or the redeem team or I guess I can't KD I guess was the leader of 2021. It was the pandemic
I think it's
Olympics.
yeah, yeah.
So, but I guess it'd be kind of interesting to look at what that team could be like. And I told you to to kind of put some folks together. But I'm gonna read from. I just grabbed 2 lists that I've seen. One of them was from Bleacher Report. Greg Schwartz. He posted his team today of who he thinks should be on Team USA. And so I want to read you this list, and you tell me if you agree or where you disagree with some of the players on his list here. So his starters would be Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards at the shooting guard, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Do you see an issue with that starting lineup?
Yeah, Devin Booker starting at the 2.
I agree with you. I think Devin Booker would actually be my starter too. And I think Marcus Thompson put his team together. He had Devin Booker at the 2 as well.
Yeah, it's probably betting on like some insane jump from Anthony Edwards. Like my prediction is like top 6 MVP campaign by Edwards this year, but that wouldn't make him better than Booker in my eyes. Like Booker's already had like 2 or 3 top 5 MVP campaigns.
Well, I think the reason why you'd want Edwards, and maybe he doesn't have to start, but you probably do want him on the team, is because you want to show that there is some relationship between FIBA and then to the next team. There's always I think that's how they want it to be as well. Like, let's have a little bit of glue here with these teams, and he would be the guy I think more so than Mikal Bridges and Brunson and those guys. He would probably be the only guy unless you want a young big like Jaren Jackson, but Jaren Jackson, his game didn't really seem to fit this FIBA international style.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see him as the defensive player of the year, probably a top 5 defensive player, although the relationship between bigs who are defenders who just protect the rim versus all the other defenders and how those are valued is kind of skewed, but he was getting cooked by those European type bigs who just pump fake mid range. It's like he can't guard it. Like he's just really just like a rim protector against like, I don't know, rim divers, against guards and wings who want to test them. But again, you throw him against Valanciunas and the guy pump fakes you 5 times. He's biting on all 5 and fouling, because that's always been his thing, right? With the Warriors, we just try to foul bait him.
Yeah.
get him out of the game. And I didn't realize how poor of a rebounder he was as well. Like I guess I just didn't pay attention to that part of his game. I just assumed, oh, 7-footer, probably is a lock for good rebounds, but no, he there was like a stat on how I think Josh Hart easily out rebounded him. And he only had like 2 rebounds in like the past 2 games or something like that.
What do you think about Anthony Davis? Because just the way that his body is, for him to be healthy enough to play in the Olympics, I think is a little bit of a stretch. Same with Steph, right? Every time Steph, every time you thought about Steph playing for the Olympics, he was not healthy. But I wonder about Davis, and I also wonder because of you have Steph, and if it's Booker or Edwards, KD, LeBron. I don't know. Is there enough basketballs for Anthony Davis to, I guess, to be interested in playing? I wonder if you need a more of a glue guy here
Yeah.
in that spot. But
I don't.
defensively, he would be
Yeah.
tremendous.
I mean, it feels like LeBron has already started his like politicking of like getting in the headlines of how he's kind of putting together this team. And Anthony Davis is his actual teammate. Like, I don't think there's a world in where AD doesn't start. But I mean, he kind of shut down the. We kind of had. He went crazy against us in the playoffs, probably without just defensively. Like, I don't think he killed us that much offensively. It was just him defensively against our team is kind of what the series became or what the series was. So I think he'd be fine in that role again in the Olympics.
And he was on the last. Was he on the last team that was in the Olympics, or he was on
No,
the
no.
team? He was on the team before that.
Probably. I wonder if the last time he played was when he was still a college student or coming into the league. You know how they sometimes did that. I don't know the rules for that, but I think it was like 2012 or something like that.
So the Anthony Davis piece, I think defensively will be awesome. I just wonder if he will buckle down and be that guy without getting the crazy touches. I would play. I imagine, and we'll get to the reserves here. I would imagine Draymond plays a lot with LeBron and KD in a lineup just to kind of get going. You kind of need to play a little slower for Anthony Davis to play well. So I would see Draymond getting plugged in at the 5 there sometimes, and it may even be a better team with Draymond at the 5, unless you have to guard like a Jokic or something, and then it changes though. I mean, did Anthony Davis guard Jokic any better than Looney and
Yeah,
Draymond would
I
have?
mean, it's a good point, but no one could guard him.
Okay, so reserves. Obviously, if Booker's going to start or if Edwards is going to start, one of the others is probably going to be on this team. This list that I'm looking at from Greg, what did I say his name was? Greg Schwartz. He also has Dame Lillard.
Yep, that's what I have.
He also has Kyrie.
I didn't have Kyrie.
That is also a LeBron probably link there, though, right? Like,
I hope it's Fox instead. That's my pick.
So we'll get to that one in a second because I think that's who Marcus Thompson had was De'Aaron Fox. Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Draymond, and Bam Adebayo as the backup 5.
I love how we're just all. It seems like everyone, including myself, is in agreement that like Kawhi is just not going to play. Like he doesn't really have that relationship with some of the other stars, and maybe care enough to want to be a part of this team. Because he would be a part. You'd probably just move up KD as like a shooting guard and put Kawhi into the starting lineup.
Well, I think he'd be interested. Would it be good for his career to play extra games when the guy can't even play in the playoffs?
Honestly, it's the same thing for all of these guys. That's an interesting point that isn't being discussed, is that we expect all of these players in the starting lineup to make a deep playoff push. And all of these players in the starting lineup, when's the last time they played more than 55 regular season games? So, and even Devin Booker, although he isn't old, I mean, I don't know his year before, but this year he only played like I think 50 to 60 regular season games.
Well, that's probably going to change. We'll talk about that later in this show. I hear you, but I think because we've seen this in the past, that Redeem team they had that documentary on Netflix about that team. I don't imagine Kobe Bryant necessarily wanted another, 10 games on his odometer there after, normally deep runs in the playoffs for him. It's just you kind of do it because it's the Olympics and it's great for your shoe brand, of course. And it's also just, who doesn't want to win a gold medal in the Olympics? Like, I think the fact that Steph hasn't done this, but I think he's played in the FIBA
He's played in
tournament a
FIBA.
couple times,
I
right?
think he's played in the last time we've won too,
Yeah.
because we don't
So,
win FIBA that often. As
so,
surprising as that might sound.
so for Steph, it's like he's got to win one. For KD and LeBron, it's just this is just what we do. We are Team USA. How many gold medals did Kobe have? How many gold medals did MJ have? Like that's kind of where you draw the inspiration as well as just winning it for your country. So I would just more be worried about guys who are chronically injured, like Kawhi, like Paul George. Now, Paul George could be on this list as well,
He
but
was on my list, but now that I look at it, like I know we did this on the BAM, so that's why I have a list. I'm just
uh-huh.
copied and pasted it from that one. But I know we talked about Anthony Edwards, but we talked about Paul George too, and I couldn't remember who we chose because I'm not sure how many spots you get on a team because we did 12.
I think it's
And
12.
if it's 12, then I think you're choosing between Fox, Kyrie, John Morant, or something like that, and then you're choosing between Edwards and Paul George.
What about
Yeah,
little
I don't know.
Cade Cunningham?
Yeah, he'd be fun. I think he'd just be another select team guy.
So the other list that I have here, instead of Kyrie, they had De'Aaron Fox, but everyone else
Yeah.
was the same except now on Marcus's list here. He had Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is like an Olympic free agent.
Yeah.
He is not on anybody's team. But you know why? I've never heard if this was a big deal for him as far as playing in the Olympics. But he's also a guy. If I'm his team, if he's on the Sixers, next year, I don't know if I want him playing because that's another guy who goes through the rigors of the season, and just by the end of it, just seems like he's so worn out that he's not his best. I don't know if I'd want him to pile on
He
another
doesn't. He
set of
doesn't
games.
care. He doesn't care what the Philly fans think. The Olympics for European players means so much more than it does for the U.S. guys. I expect Joel Embiid to 100% play.
Is he on Team USA though?
No, I don't think so. I think France is probably. I don't know if there's like some odds on this. I wonder if France is leading.
So
I'm getting him.
France had an early opt out. Rudy Gobert could not take them to the promised land, but Victor Wembanyama would be on that team. Joel Embiid, but that's like three bigs. Do you want three bigs like that on that team? I don't know.
I mean, they'd be better with him than without him.
Oh, for sure, they'd be better with Embiid and without Gobert. But Gobert, he's the one who played in FIBA.
He's like the face of France
Yeah.
for the NBA. I don't know. They also
I
have
would. I mean, I would like.
Koulibaly.
I would like to see Embiid play, and if Embiid does play and France is good, then you would need Anthony Davis because Draymond or my pick instead of Bam, because I think you just need a guy who's not really worried about playing time, and that would be none other than Kevon Looney.
I thought you were gonna say like Evan Mobley, but yeah, Kevon. That'd be. I think NBA University tweeted something like Kevon Looney should be playing in FIBA or something.
Well, and the reason is because if you want that kind of like glue, because part of the problem with these teams is they don't play together enough to kind of get that glue. But if the idea is, well, Steph and Katie and Draymond know how to play together, well, guess who else does? Kevon knows how to play with those guys. So then you'd kind of just create some synergy right away. And Kerr is your coach. I would love to see something like that, but I could also
This
see
is gonna
how
get like clipped and say Warriors homers are the worst.
well, but I could also see that's what I was going to say. I could also see how if you are Bam Adebayo and you want to be on Team USA, and you're like, well, this isn't fair. Like Kerr coaches Looney, so he gets it over me. Like I could totally see how people would take that as unfair. But I'm just saying, if you want to create the best team,
I think that's just the Draymond ad. Like, I think we as Warriors fans know that Draymond deserves to be on this team, but I think Draymond has done a phenomenal job at just keeping really good relationships with like the three faces of the NBA. Like, I can't think of someone who's closer with Steph, KD, and LeBron than Draymond. Like maybe Kobe, right? Like I don't know who else has
Maybe
that
Kent
relationship with those guys.
Bazemore. We'll talk about Kent
Yes.
Bazemore too.
So, yeah, I think in the regular fans' eyes, that's already the Draymond ad. Is the Warriors, token, the free guy to get on the team that's not Steph. But really, he deserves to be on there.
You know why you want Draymond there too, though, is the post the post game, a few bottles of wine. LeBron's got his tequila brand. Steph's got his bourbon brand. You want the podcasts after those
You
nights.
need the podcast.
That's why you want Draymond on the team. Yeah. So ultimately, I think this is going to be a fun Olympics. There's so many good players to choose from. Like the amount of talent in the NBA is pretty high right now. And we're gonna hear the stories about the international teams or X, Y, and Z. But in Canada, if Wiggins plays, they put up a formidable team.
Really good team.
Team USA always has trouble with Spain as it is, and so I think it'll be very competitive. Like this may be the Olympics where you see the most high-level basketball in the history of the Olympics. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
I tweeted something like it's the best, it's the most or the best chance they have at losing since 04, right? Because that's when they last lost. And I think that you look at Serbia, who literally just went to the FIBA championship without the best player in the world. Like on paper, I don't really know many of their guys outside of Jovic, but Jokic didn't even play, and they went to the finals. Germany won it. And I don't know who else they have to potentially add from the NBA team that didn't play. But no, this is the most talent that the world has ever had. Because 4 out of the 7 best players in the NBA are not from America. You got Luka, Giannis, Joker, and Embiid. So I think this is going to be the most entertaining Olympics. And yeah, the USA, I mean, hell, they had the best roster in the FIBA and they couldn't get it done. And it's just simply because they don't play together that much. Other things too, but that's a big part of it.
If I'm Steph, LeBron, and KD, and maybe because of the shoe companies, maybe Steph can't. He should still be sort of involved in the marketing of this, but this is I would put it out there as the closest thing to Michael, Magic, and Larry from '92.
It is the closest thing. Well, before that, what is KD, LeBron, and Kobe?
Yeah, but KD was he was a young buck.
Yeah, he wasn't that yet. But yeah, so yeah, this would be. I think we even talked about that last week, or if it was on my podcast. But yeah, yeah, you just keep looking at this from like the business perspective, and
well, the whole reason why the NBA players played in the Olympics anyways was for the globalization of basketball. Like that's why David Stern wanted the pros to play in '92. It wasn't because they lost in '88. It was because we need to grow basketball internationally, and it was such a smart move. So that's also partly what it is you want your sport to be the most popular or the most participated sport or whatever, and that will grow. But it's kind of like historic. It's if Steph, KD, and LeBron play on the same team, those are the 3 most famous basketball players of the last 10 years. And that is Michael, Magic, and Larry from 1992. That's exactly what it is. And it's just it presents your sport in a way that, you don't really get a chance to do so. It's just this conversation. What was the conversation about the world championship, or the world champions?
Noah
what was
Lyles, the track guy?
Right. There was this discussion on what a world champion actually is. And if you are an American sport and all you do is play against American players, how can you be a world championship or a world champion? And that's what this is. The Olympics is essentially a world championship. So you that's how you Team USA world champions. The NBA is obviously the best league, but imagine if the the All-Star team played against the Spain Olympic. That's kind of what this is. And so I just think it's a special opportunity. And if I am the NBA, I would do everything possible for this to happen. And then you get the shoe companies behind it. Under Armour puts out a special Olympic version of the Currys. Same with, the LeBron models and the KD models, and D-Book. It's got his new shoe. Like it just makes a whole lot of sense to me to really, really get the best team out there. And I just want to see Steph win a gold medal. It's really the only thing he hasn't done in his career.
Yep, you're with it. You didn't wait. Should I say my team? We heard. I think really quickly, my team was just Steph at just point guard. Steph, Damian Lillard, Fox. I think at the 2 it was Edwards. No, sorry, it was Booker and Edwards. But I was flirting with PG. But man, the PG's last time he tried to do this, he like snapped his ankle in half.
So some bad thoughts about that.
Yeah. I think I put LeBron, Tatum, and Butler at the small forward position. But if I'm Jimmy Butler, I'm like, if I look at the depth chart, it's like, why do I feel like I'm the 12th guy, but yet I'm out here every single playoffs beating every single one of these guys? I don't know if that ego
he
thing
could
comes
possibly angle to play some shooting guard too.
Gross, no shooting. I think at the power forward, I said KD and Draymond, and then center Anthony Davis and Bam. I feel like it's kind of what a lot of people were saying, but
I think KD will play small forward and LeBron will play power forward.
Yeah, that works
just
too.
the way that they're built. But I mean, LeBron and Draymond essentially play point guards and let Steph and Damian Lillard shoot.
LeBron will be a free agent. This is 2024, right? So this is next year, next summer.
After this season.
Yeah. LeBron will be a free agent.
So you're thinking that Steph is going to recruit
play
LeBron?
play with Steph and Draymond.
KD, you might recruit LeBron too.
Whoever recruits LeBron has to have a draft pick to select his son. I think Phoenix got rid of all of theirs.
They could trade for some.
Yeah, they could.
Okay, so we talked about, or we alluded to this idea of load management, and the NBA had a meeting. The Board of Governors approved a player participation policy in order to combat the rise of load management and make sure that the biggest names on the court are there throughout the season. So there was a resting policy, and these new rules have replaced that resting policy. So the player participation policy defines a star player as any individual who has been named to the All-NBA or All-Star teams in any of the previous 3 seasons. 49 players are defined as stars by this policy across 26 different teams. However, only the 15 teams with multiple star players will be affected by this rule in particular. So this policy dictates that uninjured eligible players are required to suit up for nationally televised games, as well as the entirety of this new in-season tournament. And I think this is really why they created this rule, is because they don't want this tournament to fail, and they want it to be a big success in year 1, because they're going to want to sell a different television package for this tournament. That's the big reason. It also prevents the shutdown of star players toward the end of the season. And the example in this CNN article that I'm reading from talks about the Wizards shutting down Bradley Beal last year with, quote, knee soreness. Lillard,
yeah.
11 game absent under right calf soreness.
Luka and Kyrie, like the poster boys of them missing the playoffs.
And Charles Barkley calling people street clothes. So teams must maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in road games and the number of one-game absences for a star player in home games, with a preference under the policy for such absences to occur in home games. Steph, Clay, and Draymond They played in a home loss against the Pacers last year before all being rested in Salt Lake City, which I feel like the Warriors almost won that game. And
I
then
think
they
it was the
lost at
one they
the end.
lost at the buzzer because
Yeah, they
Jordan
lost
Poole
it at the
turned it
buzzer.
over.
Yeah. Who hit that shot? I forgot who hit that shot. And so that situation would not happen under this new policy because they would want the guys to sit out at home rather than on the road. So the final element.
Well, no, Clay can keep doing it because he doesn't qualify.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
The final element of this participation policy is that healthy players that are sitting out games due to rest are expected to be at games, present, and visible to fans. So they can't just like chill in the hotel or stay home if their team is on the road. All right, there's a last piece of this, which is exceptions. So exceptions to this policy will be based on a player's age, career minutes logged, and injury history. And this exception must be submitted to the NBA a week in advance. So, for instance, let's say, and Steve Kerr does this, right? He looks at the schedule and goes, okay, where is our schedule loss? And he goes, okay, that schedule loss right there, Steph and Clay are not going to play in that game because we're going to lose anyways. Not that they're going to lose anyways, but
it's usually back-to-back. It's on the road.
So, for instance, LeBron James would fall into all three of these categories, which would be at least 35 years old on opening night, 1,000 regular season games played, and 34,000 minutes logged. And so, therefore, he would be eligible for rest on occasion. But the caveat being that the team would have to submit this information to the NBA and I guess get approval. Like, oh, we want to sit LeBron in this game. The NBA could go, well, if he's not hurt, this is a TNT game on Thursday night. We don't want him to sit that game. You guys have another game on Friday night, and that's at home. Sit on that night instead. That's what I sense from reading that. All right, so that was a lot of reading for me.
Is it, wait, really quick though, is it, I think it's 1,000 regular season and playoff combined games for that 35-year-old criteria, right?
Oh, is it? The one that I read does not show the playoff thing, but you might.
I read it from a tweet, so mine could be wrong.
There's probably not too many people who would qualify for one and not the other. They're probably pretty close. But what does that say? Who on the Warriors qualifies for this exception? Because they do have 4 of these players who are star players in Draymond, CP, Steph, and Andrew Wiggins. So Clay is not a part of this because Clay has not made the All-Star team in several years since before he got hurt. And Draymond is not a part of this because Draymond...
No, he is a part of this.
No, he's not a part of the exceptions piece because he's too young.
Yeah.
But so Steph and CP would be the only people who the Warriors could use in the exception of this rule because of how old they are and the regular season games. But Draymond and Wiggs, they will have to abide by this policy because they don't have those numbers that that Steph and CP do.
Yeah. It's interesting that you haven't seen that many players, fight back against this. There hasn't been any social media like LeBron putting out a tweet like SMH.
Well, yeah, like where's the player association comments about this?
Exactly. Like they haven't, NBPA hasn't released a statement yet. So, I think Nate Jones on Twitter was actually saying like, most people don't realize this, but players actually want to play.
Yeah,
and
they don't like sitting out.
They don't like the rest stuff. But I think, knock on wood, but man, I think the NBA is going to realize that having an 82 games in a season, with how the game is going pace-wise, where it's just all fast. I bet if you compared the average possessions in a game in 2023 versus 1988, it's probably night and day. There's probably so many more possessions in today's game because of how fast it is up and down the court. So I think I say that to say I think that causes more risk for injury. And I think that the load management has been, put in place to kind of combat that. These long regular seasons, the game's going faster, more risk for injury. So I think the NBA is going to realize that, hey, our stars are getting hurt. We need to make a change. And there wasn't ever going to be like the player association talking to in a CBA negotiation, like if the owners had to give up regular season games and regular season game money, the tickets that they sell to fill a stadium, the TV money that they get per game or something like that, like the players would have had to give up something huge in order to reduce that games. And it doesn't even sound like they want to reduce those games. But I just think that this isn't a good I don't know, mixture for success or combination for success in the long run. I think for this year with your little play-in tournament or whatever this tournament that you're pushing, it might work, but I do think that the regular season needs to be lowered because there are just more injuries, more non-contact injuries, and I think that's a result of how the game is played today.
Okay, so to me, there are two things that are going to happen. I think the idea of what an injury is, the definition of what an injury is, you're going to have to be way more transparent about that. And if you are the league, okay, let's use trying to think of a player who may be a little. Let's use Embiid. We were talking about Embiid because Embiid is still on the younger side. He doesn't qualify. He doesn't hit those qualifiers. He is also often hurt because he's just beat up. He plays a very physical style of basketball. He had all the knee injuries before he even started. And so they are going to have to be very transparent about his injuries, because if they are vague about his injuries and then they try to sit him out, the NBA may go, hey, he's not on your injured list. What's going on here? And so they're going to have to be very upfront about it, which a little bit of the strategy piece of the NBA, right? This is why sometimes Steve Kerr does not give out his lineups before for other teams. You want to play a little bit of guesswork there. Oh, Andre Iguodala is starting in this game instead of Bogut. Like the gamesmanship aspect of that, I don't know if they'll be able to do that. You're going to have to be very clear, and the other teams are going to know who's hurt, who's really hurt because of this policy. Because if you're Joel Embiid and you are a star, you can't sit, brother. Like you just can't. You're going to have to play these back-to-backs, these certain back-to-backs. And that's going to be hard. So that's more to your point, which is the game is physical. Though I looked at the possessions. The possessions in the late 80s were higher than they were in the mid 2010s. So I don't know what they are now because the information I was looking at was StatMuse, and I guess they're subscription based. So it locked the last 5 or 6 years. So I can only see through 2014. But those possessions were higher. But what I'm kind of interested in is, I wonder if what the injury rate was like in the early 90s or the late 80s.
What the fans from that era, including yourself, maybe you won't say this, but I know it's like, well, our guys played through the injury. There was, they were tougher, they were more physical, and then they're tougher than the crybabies today, is exactly what I'd hear from like 8 out of 10 people from your era.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd agree. I think the level of basketball is better overall, though I think the top players from all eras are probably going to be good in most eras. But there's not too many Tom, and this is not a shot at Tom Tolbert because I really like Tom Tolbert, but Don Nelson had Tom Tolbert playing point forward, and he would bring the ball up as like a 6'9" center. Like they would just quickly get the ball out of his hands and
put GP2 on him and strip it every single time he tried to do it.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so I think that they're going to have to figure out that injury piece. And then I'm also interested in how the coaches and how the team strategically figure out how to game the system, because this is the first year that it's out there, and there's going to be holes that we're not even thinking about that Warriors assistant coaches are thinking about, so that they can sort of figure out, because this hurts maybe the Warriors the most, because you have an older team and you have 4 of these players who hit this list. I don't think there are probably they probably have the most out of anybody.
There's
right?
one other team with 4, but there's no question it hurts the Warriors the most. Like they already used this, but the other team is the Timberwolves with Conley, because Conley was an all-star in 2020 or something like that. Conley, Edwards,
Cat
Cat, and Rudy. So the Timberwolves and the Warriors are tied with 4. I just looked at the list and was trying to, add them up. But yeah, I think so. Law Murray from The Athletic, I think he tweeted something. I don't know if he was joking or not, but he said the reason that the NBA did it 3 years beforehand, like in 2020, All-Star, All-NBA, no earlier than 2020. The last time is because of Kawhi. Because Kawhi is really the poster boy for load management, and he was last in All-Star or NBA, whatever one was, 2020. He hasn't been that since then. So he's saying that's why the NBA chose that specific time frame was for Kawhi. Imagine if Kawhi got to skip out of this rule, and he is like one of the number one guys. But what I'd push back and say, well, how many people are watching the Clippers anyway? But yeah, I think, yeah, and no, for sure, it hurts the Warriors the most. They are a team that I wouldn't say like fully relied on this, but they used it, they utilized it, like you said, on away games. What about what I kind of liked about the Warriors doing this though, like in 2022, getting to see our C team go and play the Spurs when they still had DeJounte Murray, and like Kuminga's flying all over the place as a rookie. Moody's having insane plays as a rookie. I did like that. I did like seeing that because we won some of those games with our, we beat the Cavaliers this past year, because of like a Ty Jerome game, because we decided to sit everyone and we played the Cavs. And I think the Cavs were almost fully healthy, and we still were able to win that with the no Steph, Clay, or Draymond team. So I'm going to miss some of those, but I mean, we have these exceptions, and I'm sure that there's, the move for getting CP, that was everyone's first bullet point of like, will this work? Is that CP is very old, and the Warriors are already very injury prone as it is. Steph, again, when's the last time he's played more than 65 regular season games? I bet, CP, for some reason, he plays a lot of regular season games. That might be a tribute to why he fizzles out in the postseason every single time, because he just plays way too many regular season games. But yeah, I mean, that was like everyone's first point that came to their mind. It's like, how is this going to work if all these guys are, they do this load management thing, and they're not always the most healthy. So that definitely does hurt them. But
what actually equals playing the game though? What if Chris Paul
starts? What about when Clay made his first game back, and Draymond just did the tip and fouled, so he could just be a part of that moment, and then just went and sat out for 2 months because he was actually hurt? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do something like that, but that'd be annoying.
Could CP play the first quarter? And then I guess that's what I need to know. What does an actual game played mean? Does it mean 20 minutes? Like you have to play 20 minutes, and then we see Kerr or some of the assistant coaches with the stopwatch and like, okay, he's out. He played his 20 minutes. That's the part of the thing that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, there's definitely ways that teams can, just go in the gray area for this. And I wonder what the NBA would do in response to that. But hey, this feels like a pretty decisive move by the NBA.
Did you see the fines?
No, what's that?
The fines, if you violate this rule, I think the first fine is like 100,000, and then by the third time it's like a 1.25 million or something per team.
That adds up.
And really what they should do, if they really want to take this seriously, is you attach it to the salary cap. That's where these owners will get really, really tight in the glutes. There is if you tie it to the salary cap.
And also like 98% of the owners would probably, like, I bet you that first punishment of fines would deter them. Like most rich people don't like losing money except for like Lacob and Ballmer. But yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to see how this one plays out, because I definitely think it's not that helpful to the Warriors. But
you think CP starts this year?
It's sounding like it. I don't mind him starting. I mind obviously the results, and I think the results would be better with him coming off the bench. But maybe, hey, they test it out. I think everyone seems to be on the same page. All the messaging they're pushing out there, with Draymond saying, like, he was talking with the ESPN guy Ohm, and he was saying that, like, why can't we win more championships? Like, my number one goal this year is to get Chris Paul his first championship.
I saw that.
So I think if everyone's kind of pushing this selfless vibe, like, maybe CP will end up coming off the bench like he should.
Here's a hot take or a wild prediction. Steve Kerr cannot start Curry and CP together for defensive reasons. And this is what he fights with Chris about, is that he needs to start a more defensive-minded starting unit because Steph and CP in the backcourt for the first 5 minutes or the first 6 minutes of every game is just going to get bodied by bigger guards.
And then CP will say, well, look, you did it with Steph and JP and you won a championship.
Yeah, but
JP's a 5 times worse defender than Chris Paul. I'm not saying something.
Yeah, but it's about the results, right? It's if you start losing games and you're going to be tied to this thing just because Chris Paul might get his feelings hurt if he has to come off the bench. I don't know about that. That's it sounds like the reason why Steve Kerr gets paid a lot of money to coach the NBA.
It's
like
the locker room.
It's not a dream scenario for a coach. You don't really want to have to deal with the egos and with all of that stuff, but it's going to be something that I think is going to be an issue. And let's say Kevon does come off the bench, it kind of screws with your rotation, with Draymond as well, about when you have one or the other in. Like, it's just kind of weird. So, all right, let's end by talking about the last 2 spots on this roster, even though they really have 3 spots, but we're of the belief that they are probably not adding that 15th guy, right?
So they only have 12 right now, is what you're saying?
I think. Well, I wrote this down somewhere.
For some reason, I thought they were at 13.
Well, let's look it up.
Should I just do it really quick in my head? Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, 6-man, CP. I'm already stuck. GP 7, Kuminga 8, Moody 9, Saric 10, Corey Joseph 11. Is there any other guys?
You said Moody and Kuminga and GP.
I said, oh, and then Trace Jackson Davis and Pajemski. That's 13. We're at 13.
So they may only bring in one guy then.
Yeah, it would only be one.
Because they could also so the way that they could also two-way Lester, and they wouldn't really need to bring another guy in.
True. I didn't even say Lester. I think they will do that. They will two-way Lester.
So then no Anthony Lamb.
Yeah, he's gone. Have you heard anything from him?
No.
I haven't heard anything. That's for the best. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it, I think, a couple shows ago. I don't know if it was last show, but I think we both agreed that it was either JTA or Kent, if they were going to sign someone from this group that they're talking about.
And so some of the other players, Derek Favors, I saw was on that list. I heard they were interested in JaVale, but JaVale went to Sacramento.
Yeah, someone snuck that into somewhere, and I was like, well, I didn't hear anything about the Warriors wanting JaVale back. I would have totally welcomed it, though. He could come play at that park again, because I'm probably about to go there tomorrow.
But so if they add, it'll be a 15th guy. So I guess that's
if they were to add 2 guys, it'd be 15. Yeah.
So would it be better for Lester to be a two-way? I imagine he wants it so badly.
Yeah, I totally think you make Lester a two-way, and then it's like, okay, how much are you paying this 14th guy? Or, if you need to, it's just non-guarantee stuff, like what you did with GP, right? Like, can't you just like non-guarantee? I don't know how those contracts work, but yeah, I think Lester converting into a standard NBA contract, using up his 2 ways, like the Warriors have done almost every season now since the 2-way stuff, right? I'm trying to remember who was the 2 ways. Was GP still a 2-way in the year they won the championship, or did they convert him the year before?
I don't.
No,
he didn't make the roster. Remember?
Well, I thought they converted him the year
at a preseason. They had to pick between him and Who was that other? Who was that
It was
veteran?
Avery Bradley.
Yeah, Avery Bradley.
But did they pick him for a two-way? Because you can't two-way Avery Bradley. There is a rule on like veterans not being able to be a two-way player. So I'm wondering if it was the year before that they converted him to a standard contract and they just weren't sure. Well, my point is that it seems like almost every single season the Warriors have had a two-way guy for the past 4 years. They've converted that player into a standard contract. Last year it was Jerome and Lamb. They converted Lamb into a standard contract. I think the year before that JTA was on a two-way.
Where did Jerome go?
Jerome went to Cleveland.
Oh wow, that's where he had his coming out party last year. Was in
He's
Cleveland.
very cooked. Yeah. And then in this year, I'm sure the two-way Lester and Guy. Let's hope for Guy.
That's the one I want to see is Guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are done here. Roderick and I will be back after the Niners game on Sunday to recap Niners and Rams. And just to FYI, Brad and I are going to Tuesday, which means that the podcast version will be up Wednesday morning. But if there is something to talk about, you and I will be back next week. But if not, we probably won't be back every week until the preseason starts.
Yeah, I mean, do we even do a podcast if one of those guys sign? Like an emergency podcast?
Yeah, we could do a small
Kent Bazemore. Exciting time to be a Bay Area sports fan. I think. I mean, stressful time to be a Giants fan, but what are they? Game just got postponed today, and
they're technically
still in it.
First place. I mean, in the lead for that third wild card, but it is only because they did not play and the other teams lost.
And then the Niners, they look like the best team in the league. Knock on wood.
After week one, a whole week one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a long season. But yeah, this will be fun. Hopefully the Giants can make the playoffs. Hopefully the Niners play strong. Hopefully the Warriors play strong, and this feed will be a lot of fun for the year. So, all right, that is it from here. For Bri, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.